Welcome to How to Find the Settings on your digital SLR camera with capturing true emotion. My name is Val Westover. Let's find the settings on the Nikon D60. Here are the settings you need to know in order to have more control of your camera and your photography. Camera modes, ISO, aperture, shutter speed, metering mode, white balance, focus mode, autofocus point selection, drive mode, histogram, exposure compensation, and flash exposure compensation. Choose an exposure mode by turning the mode dial. The exposure mode selection can be seen in the monitor. To have more control of your exposure, select a more advanced mode such as program, aperture priority, shutter priority, or full manual mode. To change the ISO, push the information button, highlight ISO using the multi-selector, and press OK to view options for ISO. Use the multi-selector to select your desired ISO. Your ISO selection can be seen in the monitor. To choose an aperture, turn the mode dial and select Aperture Priority. Then adjust the command dial. Your F number aperture selection can be seen in the monitor. To choose an aperture in manual mode, push and hold the aperture button while adjusting the command dial. To choose a shutter speed, turn the mode dial and select Shutter Priority or Manual Mode. Then adjust the command dial. Your shutter speed selection can be seen in the monitor. To choose a metering mode, push the information button, highlight metering using the multi-selector and press OK to view options for metering. Use the multi-selector to select your desired metering mode. Your metering selection can be seen in the monitor. To choose white balance, push the information button, highlight WB using the multi-selector and press OK to view options for white balance. Use the multi-selector to select your desired white balance. Your white balance selection can be seen in the monitor. To choose an autofocus mode, push the information button, highlight autofocus using the multi-selector and press OK to view options for autofocus. Use the multi-selector to select your desired autofocus mode. Your autofocus selection can be seen in the monitor. To choose an autofocus area mode, push the information button, highlight autofocus area using the multi-selector and press OK to view options for the autofocus area. Use the multi-selector to select your desired autofocus area mode. Your autofocus area mode can be seen in the monitor. If you select single point, use the multi-selector to select the focus point in the viewfinder or the monitor. To choose a release mode, push the information button, highlight Release Mode using the multi-selector and press OK to view options for the release mode. Use the multi-selector to select your desired release mode. Your release mode selection can be seen in the monitor. To access the histogram, push the play button to access an image. Then click the top or the bottom of the multi-selector until the histogram is displayed. In program mode, aperture priority, or shutter priority mode, the camera is in charge of achieving a correct exposure. If you intentionally want to over or underexpose your image, you can do so by pushing the exposure compensation button. Then adjust the command dial. Your exposure compensation selection can be seen in the monitor. If you want to power your flash up or down to increase or reduce flash output, you can do so. Push the Flash Exposure Compensation button and the Exposure Compensation button. Then adjust the command dial. Your Flash Exposure Compensation selection can be seen in the monitor. To lock the camera settings while in program mode, aperture priority, or shutter priority mode, you can do so by pushing the AEL button and holding the exposure button halfway down. Your camera settings will be locked, they won't change on you, and an AEL indicator will appear in the viewfinder.